And welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We now continue with our coverage. And Mombasa Governor Abdul Swamad Nasir says he will release all medical staff at the Coast General Hospital to the institution, which will take care of the expenses. The governor says more than 100 million shillings will be off his huge wage burden after the hospital is given complete autonomy. At the same time, Abdul Swamad has called on the national government to promptly release funds to avoid service disruptions. He was speaking to our sister station Spice FM. He is part of the conversation.
Well put.
Governor, many issues. Last week, on a day like this, we hosted the leadership of the medics in the country, medics unions, Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, and the Kenya Clinical Officers Union. And they were telling us, you know what, in a couple of hours' time, people will not be able to report to work. And one of those counties that they were talking about was Mombasa. And of course, by the time that day came, you had already sorted out the workers.
Their salaries,
But
yes.
what is it that was happening? What was happening last week?
It's actually very simple. And I want to speak on behalf of the county of Mombasa. I cannot be able to speak on behalf of every other county. Every other county has its own governor and they have their own issues. But the situation in Mombasa is very simple. You've got salaries of 480 million is what it is that you have to pay in terms of salaries. 600 million is what you're getting in terms of equitable share, around 600 million. So when you take 480, that's 600 million, that you're remaining with about 120. In the spirit of devolution, the county assembly needs to run and they need to be financed. And part of the financing comes from the equitable share or on-source revenue. You're looking at about 60 million. Just our power bills are in the region of about 30 million. For us to be able to move our trucks, collect garbage and everything, the cost of fuel in Mombasa is an average of another 15 million. And nothing goes less. Everything rises higher and higher. When you add all these figures up, they actually probably surpass even what it is that you're getting. We had an arrangement, an excellent arrangement with Kenya Commercial Bank, where this was going to be in terms of sorting out cash flow. That means every time that money does not come in, they come on board and pay. But there's a limitation as well. This time round, money has not been able to flow in for about 4 months. By then, we had not been paid December, January, February, March, April. And when you look at it now, so we had to sort out using on-source funding. We did what had to be done, and we paid the salaries. And anyway, we had already planned to pay way before. Unfortunately, without money being able to come in, counties will end up being stuck at any given time. I'm hoping to be meeting all the medics tomorrow to discuss with them one of the issues that I want to present to them. And I might as well say it here. I know that they're going to be listening to this. We need to come up with a permanent solution. Mombasa has a county corporation, which is the Coast General Hospital. The Coast General Hospital, I've tasked them that they need to look for ways for them to be able to be independent, financially independent. And what we now want to do is convert the amount of money that we have been paying Coast General employees, because you see those employees are being paid by the county government, but they report to the Coast General Hospital. It's like saying Kenyatta National Hospital, doctors there are not being paid by Kenyatta National Hospital, but they are being paid by national government. So the conversation that I've had with the board of Coast General and the CEC for Health and the whole management of Coast General is that you need to take on board these employees under similar terms and conditions. So that means you're simply falling from this hand to go to this hand. We will commit financing the Coast General Hospital a certain amount of money, which will probably be more or less around the same amount of money which will be in terms of salaries. But we convert that into a development expenditure. And the on-source revenue, which Coast General is already generating anyway, they use that on-source revenue to now convert it in terms of salaries. So this basically assists us in terms of cash flow, because Coast General will be able to pay those particular employees. The county government will also be able to be released of that financial pressure at the end of the month, because a decent chunk of the salaries actually goes to medics. So it's a win-win for everyone. The only thing that the medics will happen is that their salaries are simply going to be coming from the Coast General Hospital under similar terms. That means if you're pensionable, your pension does not die. But this time round, what it simply means is that you're being paid by the corporation. The same way the employees at Mombasa Water are being paid by Moasco and not being paid necessarily from the county
And
government.
this is sustainable, Governor. Are we looking at something that is sustainable, or is it looking at a certain period of time? In the
No, this is actually the most sustainable. This is the most sustainable, because you're easing the burden on the county government in terms of employment, in terms of salaries. At the same time, you're simply telling the Coast General that we will be able to finance you this amount of money over a certain period of time. Because Coast General, as it is, the revenue, the receipt, patients. Coast General Hospital right now, one of the plans that we actually have, and this is going to be rolled out in the next 10 days. Hopefully we're going to be advertising on how the modalities will be. Is what we want to do right now is roll out 10,000 NHIF, health being an issue, with the primary beneficiaries being county health facilities. So from all levels of hospitals, we're going to be having those beneficiaries being there, so that money now rotates back. NHIF is one of the biggest sources of funding for the Coast General. So if the county government continues funding through the Mombasa Care Program, which is a program that we promised during the campaigns, and we want to now launch it. Initially, it's going to be about 10,000 families. Thereafter, I'm hoping before the end of the year, and when I say the year, not the financial year, but the year meaning December, we are going to be able to increase that amount of people. The Coast General Hospital right now has huge facilities, CT scans, you name it, all these medical. And we're now saying that we need to probably, because we have land right next to the sea, partner up and do exactly what Kenyatta National Hospital has done and the other hospitals have been able to do, put up a private doctor's plaza. It's going to be in a Robin Hood kind of a thing, that if you want to be able to have a seaside and use our CT scan facilities, and you want to have your chicken for breakfast, you pay for it, so that we can be able to finance and help the poor. But the immediate short term, and it's not even just short term, but immediate solution that can be able to be sustainable permanently, and it's a win-win for every single person, is we simply take that wage bill and load it onto Coast General.
How much of the 480 million a month would you be able to offload from the county treasury?
And this is not just for all the medics. This is just for the medics who are currently at Coast General. We're looking at about 110
health workers.
110 million shillings every month.
Yes.
Would actually go now to be. And currently, what's this arrangement? So Coast General Hospital is obviously generating revenue.
They do generate revenue, but
and
you
then
see,
they bring it to the county.
No.
treasury. What do they do?
They have their own revenue, where now the board plans, then they take it to the CC. The CC, of course, now brings it to the cabinet with concurrence that this is the plans that we have to make the Coast General grow. So what we are saying is they need to now be independent independent in the sense that allow the county government to finance their development. But their own source that they want to do that development purposes goes to pay the salaries. Now, it's simply just...
Sounds like it's one or the other. I mean, currently...
yeah, but you see, one thing I will not be able... I will
Hold
not.
on, Governor. Currently, their own revenue is going towards their own development.
Right.
Right? And their staff are paid by the county.
Right.
You want to swap them around.
We want to
so
swap
your
them
own
around.
revenue now starts paying your own staff.
Right.
And then the county will finance your development.
Exactly.
I see a risk.
Not at all.
If the county is not able to pay the staff.
We're not paying the staff. This is why I'm explaining the risk that is there.
Currently, if the county is currently having challenges paying the staff,
right,
the county will in future be having challenges financing development of Coast General Hospital.
Not at all.
What it is their revenue is. Because
actually these figures have already been, we've gone through these figures. I want to say one thing. Our financial levels right now, you also need to be able to understand that if I was able to offset salaries for last using on-source revenue, that means we're also doing something right. It does not mean that we're not growing. It does not mean that we are stagnant. It does not mean, and that's even worse, that we're actually declining. What that means is that we've been able to be stable. Secondly, this also goes hand in hand. Control of budget today will be raising questions the next time we want to do our budgets, and the control of budget is going to start asking, your salaries are surpassing the required mandate for what should be in terms of your recurrent expenses. So what does that do? You're reducing. Even the banks themselves are better placed of saying that, let this financing go into the element of development. One thing that, and you said that there's a risk of probably Coast General not being able to get the development fund. One thing that I cannot be able to do, it does not mean that we're unable to pay that 110 or that 300 balance on that other side. The issue is getting it all at a go. And the reason why it's an issue getting it all at a go is because I will not pay executive and leave the sweeper. I will not pay the person who is a sweeper and leave out a medic. Equally, I will not pay a medic and leave out someone else. So the day that someone gets a salary, it is actually concurrent. It's at the same time. The same button that is used to pay the governor is the same button that is used to pay every single other person.
Okay.
So that's the reasoning that is behind there. And look, again, the figures have been looked at. We've discussed this with at length with all those that are concerned, and it is sustainable. And for argument's sake, because of cash flow, I'm unable to give them that 110 million to Coast General for the next 10 days, just for argument's sake. Coast General has its own revenue that they're already collecting.
On a daily basis.
On a daily basis. So they can be able to do that, to give us as well a breather of that 110 million for the next 10 days or the next 15 days, which we're not foreseeing that to be a situation. In fact, we've even done other things that we want to do as well, is to actually commit ourselves to financial institutions that this money has to be paid to Coast General.
Sure. I mean, so we're looking at the health issue, obviously, as one of the biggest ones that needs to be dealt with. There are other things in the county.
And probably just before sorry, I'm cutting you short, but if you want to know that we can actually be able to do this and this is sustainable, we recently hired about 50-something employees at the Coast General Hospital. They're on contract currently because we had an outbreak and we could not start sitting down. Before we do that, we had to look at the figures. Can Coast General be able to pay? And yes, we can be
It's
able
possible.
to pay. That's why we took in these 50-something people with the hope that after the 6 months, then we consider giving them the long-term contract.
And police